Hey guys, Fox here, and it is time to do the first in-depth review of the 2025 UFL season. Now, if you're new here, in-depth reviews are simply where I go over either a series of plays or certain plays that all kind of go together in a more in-depth setting to exactly see how they contributed to a team winning or losing the game. And as you can see by the thumbnail, we are talking about the special teams of the Michigan Panthers and how they cost the Panthers the Week 2 game against the Birmingham Stallions on Friday Night Football. Special teams wins games. I said it during the stream. I've said it before. I've said it since. There is a reason why it is just as important as offense and defense. Because in close games, you almost rarely see the offense or defense win you a game. It is almost entirely the special teams. And that is the case in this game. So some context before we go diving into the 4 plays I'm going to dive really closely into. We have the overall passing and rushing stats from the game, as well as a couple things that happened very early in the game and after the game. Now, extra context is that the Stallions had always beaten the Panthers. The Panthers were winless against the Birmingham, so they wanted to change that. Now, heading into this game, Magoo was the starter. He got hurt on the first play. Right off the bat, like that, he got hurt. As you can see, that is him being down. Matt Corral would come in and play the entire rest of the game and would play a serviceable but not incredible game. He just played a better game than Magoo did. Still wasn't perfect, threw a couple interceptions, had another ball that was a turnover-worthy play that could have been a pick six. Ground game person had one big rush, but aside from that, overall ground game was non-existent for Birmingham. As for Michigan, ground game was not great either, though Coburn did have a couple of decent runs. Perkins looked a lot worse than he did in week 1, mainly because of his refusal to run. I could have easily done an in-depth review on this sequence where on 2nd and 8 he decided to not run for a first down, just throw a Hail Mary, then threw a check down on 3rd down to then punt on 4th down. But it's also important to know that after this game, Michigan got substantially worse. This is what just came out on Monday, is that Marcus Sims got traded to the Houston Roughnecks for an offensive tackle in Cam Carter, and they signed Grant Miller as a guard because Breland Speaks has been put on IR. So 2 of the best players on Michigan are now gone from the team, meaning that this might have been their last real shot to beat Birmingham for a while, as there's a lot of pessimism going around the Michigan Panthers right now on expecting them to not be a great team. But this context is needed because this shows that this was a very close game overall statistics. And you can even look at the overall stats. 3rd down percentage, red zone inefficiency by both teams, time of possession. Almost every stat is damn near identical except for special teams. So without further ado, let's get started by looking at these plays and going in depth on them. So as you can see here, the very first play we are talking about is going to be the kickoff. Yes, the kickoff to the game. This is the play that happened obviously before Magoo got hurt. So this is a normal kickoff, right? The ball's starting at the 30 where they're going to kick it, and let's just watch what happens. Because this is where we immediately see some issues with the Michigan Panthers special teams. So the ball ends up getting caught at about the 6-yard line. So right here, this is pretty obvious to be known that you need to stop them before the 30. That is a decent stoppage by their defensive team. Do not let them get past the 30. Getting past the 30-yard line means you're giving them really solid field position, which you do not want to do. So let's see what ends up happening here. He gets to 10, 15, 20, blah, blah, keeps going. He cuts to his left, and just everybody basically misses him. He keeps going, gets to the 40, and eventually gets taken out of bounds at about the 50-yard line. So immediately, you're seeing a massive failure by the special teams. Allowing him to get that far is just horrid, because now you're giving them the ball in very close to field goal position. Now, the defense would end up bending a little bit. What ended up happening in a few plays later, Corral came in, blah, blah, blah. They did get a decent amount of yardage and were able to get into field goal position. Now, this is a short field goal. This is only a 36-yard field goal, which means that, yes, the offense did actually go somewhere. But this same time, if you had kicked the ball off and stopped the return at about the 25 or the 30, this would have been a much longer field goal, or they wouldn't have been able to kick a field goal here if everything ends up being the same. But as you can probably guess, the kick goes, and it is good. So right off the bat, you can argue that 3 points are on the boards purely because of special teams failure. Yes, the defense did allow Birmingham to move the ball a decent bit. But again, them moving it about 30 yards is not super impressive from an offensive perspective. That is more of a testament to how good the Michigan Panthers defense is, being able to stop them from really doing any massive damage. So that is what immediately happened on the very first drive. So now we're in the very opening stages of the second quarter. Again, 30 seconds into the quarter, and we have what would be the third drive for the Birmingham Stallions. So this time it is a punt, 4th and 14. Offense wasn't able to do its job. Let's see what happens here. So the punt goes up, not even close to being blocked, and it's a pretty deep punt, except you see that it gets recovered at about the 27-yard line. So it's a solid punt, all things considered. It's not the most, it's not an earth-shattering punt like we saw like Marquette King make in his game, but it's a good one. So let's see what happens on the return. He immediately goes up, makes a cut to his left, breaks multiple tackles, and there's a penalty, keeps going, fumbles the ball, and it ends up being recovered by the Stallions an extra 5 yards. So right there now, if you were to just spot it at the fumble, that is the ball at about the 47-yard line. But that penalty is actually on Michigan, so it is a 5-yard penalty added to that. So immediately they get the ball at the 49-yard line in Michigan territory. That is 2 out of 3 special teams plays where the special teams completely fails to cover any sort of kick, and it's just a terrible, terrible look for that unit. Because again, now they're in a position where they need less than 20 yards to be in realistic field goal position. That is not what you want to see at all. Now, this is where we get to a bit of a little crossroads of it. Technically speaking, what's about to happen after this play is really good for Michigan. But in the grand scheme of things, you can kind of tell where I'm going to go with this afterward. So let's just look at this play first and foremost. It's 3rd and 16. Again, Birmingham is in field goal position to score and get another 3 points on the board if they fail this. But what ends up happening? Well, the play clock goes down, ball is snapped by Corral, he drops back, looks to his left, keeps looking, stares, throws it, and it gets intercepted. Great interception by the Panthers. So right there, that is one of 2 interceptions that would end up being had on the night for Michigan Panthers. Now, that is a great interception, but as you can see, they're getting the ball behind the 20-yard line. Again, if this was a better punt and better coverage on the defensive side, this interception happens roughly around the 40-yard line. Again, granted, saying nothing else ends up changing. But overall, this is another example of the defense bailing out the offense and especially the special teams. That's what you have to really understand here. This is bailing out the special teams more so than any other part of the unit on the team. But even then, this could have been better had it happened somewhere else. So this was a lucky break, but again, we're not done with the awful coverage on kicks. So here we are, the very next punt by Michigan. The very next punt. Let's see what ends up happening here. As you can probably guess, not good. 4th and 13. The punt goes up, somewhat close to being blocked, but it doesn't. Now the punt goes down, and it's a deep punt. This is an actual good punt. Gets it about the 15-yard line. But then you're about to see some awful play by this coverage team. Almost immediately, a tackle is missed. He cuts to the left, dodges another tackle, breaks another 2 tackles, keeps going, makes a cut to the right, gets past the 50, and eventually gets taken out of bounds at about the 48-yard line. That was a minimum of 3 should have been tackles. You can excuse maybe one of them, but that many broken or just dodged tackles is insane. And as you can guess, it immediately gives them the ball in good field position once again. Yes, once again, you need less than 20 yards to get into field goal position. Terrible special teams coverage by the Panthers once again, and it's just awful to watch. It hurts. And then wouldn't you guess it, on that drive, the Stallions eat up most of the clock and are able to kick a short field goal. Again, this is a short field goal. The defense was not able to hold them immediately. But this is another 3 points that was given because of the special teams overall. Again, if you start this back at about the 20 and everything plays out the same, which when you're talking about the red zone is a bit hard to say that, but if it did, this is at least a 20-yard harder field goal. Instead, it's a essential free one for Mevis, kicks it up, and it's good. So that is in the first half, 3 drives where the Stallions are getting the ball in incredible field position. Again, at this point, this is 3 out of 4 kicks, whether it be punts or kickoffs, that the Stallions were able to return to about the 50-yard line. That's crazy. Now, while we wouldn't have any terrible return coverage for a while, we get to the penultimate play that cost the Panthers the game. If you watch this game, you know what we're about to talk about. So here we are. Now this time, the Stallions are punting. So you would hope in a game like this that we would see a great return by Michigan, especially because this is a very deep punt for the Stallions. Well, no. So what ends up happening here, punt goes up. Now, we're going to stop this relatively early this time. We're going to stop it right here. So, what you are seeing right now is a guy running towards the football that's coming down. Now, at this point, there was essentially 2, really 3 choices. Number 1, you look and say, can you make it to where the ball is going to land? If the answer is no, you stop where you are now and just try to cover the bounce or just don't do anything. Now, if you think you can get there, you have 2 choices. You either keep sprinting to where you catch it while running, or you do the correct play, which is get under it and stop moving to get the return. It's just like when they say catching the ball while on the run. If you're focused on running after the catch, you're going to struggle to actually catch the ball. Returning kicks is just like that, but even more difficult because the ball is spinning in an even more wild way. You need to get the ball, especially on a punt. Take a guess what ends up happening. Let's see. He keeps going, and he drops it. Muffs the punt. And Birmingham gets it. Once again, past midfield, Birmingham gets the ball. This was a horrific play by Devin Ross. This is what ultimately cost the Panthers the game. The drop pick six hurt. Perkins not running it on second down hurt. This is what ended the game for him. This muffed punt it was a soul-crushing play. Because that was just terrible special teams play. Again, you should never be sprinting towards the ball to return it when it's like that. Now, if it's a deep, let's say 70, 60-plus yard punt, that's a bit of a different story. If he was going to get that ball at about the 40, his 40, or maybe the 35, it's fine because if you muff it, you should be able to get it because you're going to be the only guy within 10 yards. But when he got this, the Stallions were less than like 7 yards away from him. So it was just a terrible play, all things considered. Muff punt, the ball gets to the Stallions. And wouldn't you guess it, they end up eating some more clock, get to the 2-minute warning, get past it, and Harrison Mevis is able to kick a 31-yard field goal to essentially ice this game, making it a 2-score game. And in the end, Birmingham does win this game. So, overall, what is this? This is proof that special teams matters. Of course, the final score being 21-12, Michigan did get a field goal, but this was a terrible look for special teams on the Michigan Panthers. The worst unit in the league, special teams-wise, is the Panthers. If you watch my Power Rankings video, you know that they rank pretty much dead last in multiple stats when it comes to allowing returns, net average on punts, overall kicking, because even in week 1, they missed multiple field goals. This unit has been a piss-poor unit so far 2 weeks through the season, and it especially hurts because it's not like, the guys, like your punter isn't signed somewhere else, you just got a new one, and part of it is on the punter, but overall this is mainly on the return team itself. The 3 big returns and that muffed punt, you can easily say that was a 9-point swing. You could. Now, to be generous and fair, we're going to call it a 6-point because, like I said, one of those field goals was a 21-yarder. So in all reality, this was really a 6-point swing. Your first one, you wouldn't have had Birmingham kick a field goal had they have started, 20 yards behind. Then at the very end, you would have at least gotten a field goal with that Panthers offense, in theory. So yes, a 6-point swing wouldn't have ended the game fully, right? But when you add overall that to everything else, it just was a terrible look for this unit. The special teams unit cost them multiple points, ended multiple drives in just really bad ways. Because it's one thing to end a drive having to punt, and then when you punt and they basically get the ball back damn near where you punted it from, that's a problem. Especially when we would see other punters do great punts. This was just not it. And then Ross trying to do what the Stallions were doing and get a big return ended up completely backfiring on him. That play really hurt to watch. And overall, that's the in-depth review for this week. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell and like the video if you did enjoy it. Again, in-depth reviews are always fun to do, but you can't always do them every week because there's not anything that always fully justifies it. But this one was really rough. This special teams unit was really rough to watch. And this is definitely a PSA to why special teams matters. Again, think about becoming a community member if you have been a fan of the channel for a while. It's as low as 99 cents a month. You get a bunch of benefits like an exclusive video every month, team emojis, and other benefits. Be on the lookout for upcoming videos and upcoming live streams as well. And as always, guys, have a great night.